450,000 years ago, the Anakim had a plan to come take this planet for their own, and came with Rh factor blood. This began with the Aldebarans, who brought the Cro-Magnon, and there was struggle between them and the Neanderthal, and they won. This is a trait that exists today on Rh women, who have children that are Rh positive, and their body builds up antigens because their body doesn't recognize the proteins that exist in Rh positive blood. Since the Rh bloods lacks this particular protein, it builds up antibodies to attack this foreign invader. In this case, the foreign invader is the unborn child. This usually doesn't necessarily happen with the first child, unless the mother has already been exposed to Rh positive blood. If this does occur, the mother will have to be issued a shot, or she will not build up antibodies against the child. If it does not occur with the first child, it will occur if the next child is also Rh positive. The Arabs started the slave trade to produce the Rh factor in Africa in the 1400s. They were having children, and they were dying. African people usually have O blood, considered universal donors. Then in the 1500s it was the Portuguese, and in the 1600s they went after West Africans in West Africa. We Nagaru reside in what is essentially a reptilian sphere of influence. The symbology of the reptilian overlordship is all around us. Phallic worship, and the marginalization of the feminine principle have reduced the Nagaru to what they are today, a thundering herd of bewildered sheep. The grand strategy of the reptilians has been to divide and conquer Nagaru, by exploiting inherent vulnerabilities and weaknesses within us. We must look the facts in the eye and not allow ourselves to be held in perpetual spiritual bondage, by our own ignorance and wishful thinking. The strategy of divide and conquer manifests itself both in our personal lives and on a global macrocosmic scale. We have been subjected to a long-term process of genetic and mental manipulation. The Nagar lifespan has been artificially shortened to facilitate the recycling of our souls, used as a battery by those unworthy to possess one, by the reptilians who see the Nagar race as a resource. The Anakim are well aware of the geological calendar of this planet. We're entering the sun cycle, and they have prepared themselves accordingly. What we are involved in all-out spiritual warfare. What is at stake are our very souls. We can either choose to break out of this state of bondage and spiritual enslavement, or we can be recycled once again, and our descendants will have to start all over from scratch with little or no guidance provided by Baba Yanun. The Caucasus and their overlords will force us into the Dark Ages revisited. We must realize that the reptilians, after millennia of tampering and diluting Nagar DNA, they know our weaknesses and vulnerabilities better than we do. Many Nagaru in the West, and around the world, no matter how metaphysically oriented they are, have to endure sheer misery in their lives. Nagaru typically experience one emotional or psychological trauma after another, never realizing for a moment that much of the negativity in their life has been externally imposed. Foreign ideas and religious opinions are programmed into Nagaru to detract them from coming into their own truth, vis-à-vis the reptilians and the other foreign influences of this world. Likewise, certain individuals are sent into our lives, such as preachers and bastions of popular culture, specifically to sow confusion and discord. Now more than ever we must be wary of who or what we allow into our life experience. There is a fundamental occultic basis for much of today's popular culture. There are aspects of this phenomenon that are indistinguishable from demonic infestation and demonic possession, sorcery and witchcraft, as frightening and unpopular as that may be. The ongoing interaction between humans within the secret world of the intelligence security apparatus, and the aerospace community with non-human intelligences has an occultic basis, which was thousands of years in the making. There is nothing new about humans interacting with and working for non-humans. The reptilian overlords of the Caucasus have stupefied us into worshipping them as gods. Remember, God is anyone or anything in control of other beings or things. But this does not make you the Al-Mahdi, because even God, or the God concept is within the All. God as a word, is of Hebrew to Greek origin, derived from the words, Gamar, meaning wisdom, Az, meaning strength, and Dubar, meaning beauty. These all describe human attributes and qualities. By calling what you consider to be the Almighty Creator, by using the word God, you are making him equal to a human, and the word God is used interchangeably. When referring to humans, refer to the following quotes and you will see where the word God is being used for human beings: Psalm 82:6 and John 10:34. Now take a look at Psalm 82:6. I have already told you that you are Elohim and all of you are the children of Al-Aliyun. And John 10:34 supports Psalm 82:6, where Jesus was talking to the Jews. John 10:34, Yeshua answered the Judahites, is it not recorded in the law? I said, you are Elohim. The Norse deity Thor was identified by the Greeks as Zeus, also pronounced Deus, Deus, or Dios, which was a shortened version of the Roman Jupiter, whose etymological origin is Zeu Peter or Dios Pater, meaning God Father. The planet Jupiter in modern astronomy was named for the Roman deity Jupiter, and was called Nibiru in Babylonian astronomy. Zeus and Jupiter were Greek and Roman deities, considered the supreme deity and the father of gods, and symbolized by thunderbolts, lightning, and the bull. By functional definition, these European deities were derivatives of the African deity Ptah, and even the etymological origin of the names of these deities are derivatives of the name Ptah. The first part of Jupiter is Zeus Peter, Dios Pater, Dios Petar, or Tiwas Pita etc., basically derives from the words Deus, Dios, Duid, Duo, two, twin, or Twa, which is the dyad or duad principle of Tunis in Greek philosophy, which was the divine mind Nu, symbolized by Ptah in African philosophy. Even the word tu or twa is a derivative of the pronunciation of Ptah as ta. The second part of Jupiter, Zeus Petar, which is Pater, Peter, meaning father, to create, beget, originate, etc., is a clear derivative in pronunciation and meaning to Ptah, and is also associated with the Arabic word Fatah or Fatiha, meaning opening, which is the title of the first or opening chapter of the Muslim holy book the Quran. In order to open something you must distinguish or separate something. It has also been suggested that the name Ptah is the origin of the title Buddha, meaning awakened one or the enlightened one in Asian culture. According to A.K. Kumaraswamy, in the book entitled, The Origin of the Buddha Image and Elements of Buddhist Iconography, the name Ptah was corrupted by the Greeks as Puta, and Ptah then eventually spread in Asia as Puta or Buddha. The description of Ptah creating by imagining or visualizing a creation in his heart, and then causing the creation to come into being by speaking it with his tongue, means that Ptah served as the architect who designed the blueprints, and the builder who formed the structure, the engineer who drew the schematic, and the technician who put it together. Ptah was the metaphorical weaver and the blacksmith in one. Most Nagaru are unaware of these facts about our past, and are possessed by Kaukasu ghost forces of faith and belief. Most Nagaru are not even aware that possession does occur, and that a significant number of individuals heavily involved in research are literally hosts, alien entities attached, indwelling, for reptilian and other malevolent entities. These hosts have lectured publicly, written books, and spoken on the Art Bell show. So why is the average Nagaru ignorant of this fifth column within our very midst? Because most Nagaru are still looking for the truth outside of themselves, rather than from within. As stated earlier, we are the products of a long-term genetic and mental manipulation, designed to keep us individually and collectively in a subservient status throughout the world. Now more than ever we must recognize that we have been programmed into perpetual bondage. Whether your particular vulnerability is overeating, substance abuse, especially crack or crystal meth, which is the drug of choice of the Anakim, promiscuity, love, obsessions, et al., it's all spawned from the same source. This is all predictable. What is also predictable is that there will be Nagaru in your life who will characterize you as being fear-based and spiritually unevolved, merely because you have the self-worth and the self-respect to want to get at the truth of your experiences. Don't listen to these weather-beaten house Negroes. They are merely useful idiots. They are members of the Muppet Show, meant to keep you under the control of the Kaukasu. Now is the time to proclaim our personal sovereignty, and throw off the yoke of spiritual enslavement and cosmic vassalage, and give our children and our children's children a fighting chance to break out of this mess. That the first line of defense for the Kaukasu overlords is the so-called conscious community itself. There is nothing simpler than activating the ego of the so-called conscious researcher. It has long been a part of their modus operandi. There are many examples of manipulated and programmed Negroes who have had their puny egos activated, and who have been sent out into the world to impose their wills upon Nagaru who are still seeking the approval of others and their Abrahamic sacrifice religions. One of the main planks of the Anakim agenda has been to heap all of the blame upon the apparent Negroes who are merely the errand boys of the reptilian overlords of the Kaukasu. Many of the illuminated members of celebrity culture are actually high-ranking adepts, well-versed in the pale arts of the blinding light. Many of these black celebrities are promoting Western astrology and occultism, playing witches and warlocks, diluting our original Tamarayan science of solar biology. The original elemental chart was circular, and was in the form of the zodiac, which is in fact an elemental chart, and this elemental chart ties directly into man's existence, the 4 seasons and solar biology. The dendera has 100 plus pictographs or images, equaling the 100 plus physical elements. Certain ones, elements, in the original circular chart, are produced naturally during certain times of year, 4 seasons or quarters, by the earth in abundance. Thus, as all members of humanity are born during one of these 4 quarters, winter, spring, summer or fall, thus having these elements in our bodies in an abundance. Another point to think on is that the dendera, originally called Ayunet or Tantra, has pictures of 36 constellations divided into 18 above and 18 below. This corresponds to the 18 elemental groupings and 18 galaxies outside of the Milky Way in this universe. The Book of the Beginning, 1-12 in part, let the voice of the guardian angelic hosts further inform and deliver unto you that which shall make you worthy of surviving the calamities of the latter day, the reality which teaches that the square, which you know of and often see while residing on tar, earth, the physical plane or realm, is not the same as its counterpart which exists and vibrates in tune with and on the spiritual realm or plane, nor on the plane or realm of force. Instead, these realms or planes are not perceived by the ordinary person's eye. Ultimately, the energy which was confined in the cube square tried to escape, which caused it to push upward, outward and downward, producing constant friction, which generated heat to the point where the temperature, degree that the cube square endured could no longer be withstood, and an explosion of enormous force came about. This event had not yet been manifested on the physical plane, as being the actual birth of the universe, inclusive of the formation of stars, galaxies and planets, on the physical side, but instead on the etheric side. The Dendera is located at the Temple of Hathor because Hathor's temple is the house of light. Hat equals house, and Hor equals light on high, where the great river horse called the hippo called Tawaret sits, symbolizing humanity's mammalian link to water. The hippopotamus is also a symbol of female fertility, as the hippo sits in the center of the Dendera, just as the pineal gland sits in the center of the brain and links to the hippocampus area, where the parotid gland once sat. The sacred records of Autumn Ray, 1:1070 in part, why did the Greeks hate Tawaret? Because she was the center of the Ayunet or Tantra, called by the Greeks Dendera calendar, and she represented mitochondria DNA, and these Greeks hated woman. They kept their woman suppressed. The Hyksos wanted to change the Dendera calendar and remove Tawaret from its center, the great female guardian angelic host, the goddess symbol that women were indeed first before man, physically on earth, for the masculine force existed first in the heavens. As such, this temple was where many experiments took place, and more importantly where it was determined under which sign a being would be born into Earth's plane. This was actually Tamaraean, ancient African, solar biology where Greco-Roman, European, lunar astrology came from. Solar biology was a form of genetic engineering, as it predicted and chose the exact moment of one's birth and which sign you were to be born under, and the galaxy which would have to open up in order to allow you to come through. Thus, it determined your very nature, character, likes, dislikes, etc. This is why the masters taught that on one's birthday you are to sit in meditation, because this was the day that the universe aligned with Earth in order to let you in, and on this day once a year it realigns to recalibrate you with its energies. Demon Man, being aware of this, set out to stop this energy from reaching you, so he encourages you to have fun and get drunk on your birthday, in order to twist your very etheric umbilical cord, fiber, thereby prohibiting you from receiving this power. Today the Caucasus tries to control birth defects etc., in the same manner. The Book of the Whisperer, 66301-304, the albino needs superior genes so desperately that he has given birth to a new science called genetic engineering, which allow him to predetermine the genetic composition of a fetus. He has even gone as far as to test the cells of the human embryo for abnormal chromosomes and defective genes, in an effort to eliminate genetic disorders such as Mongolism. The New Age snowflakes claim that there is no such thing as evil or demons, which makes these same New Age snowflakes the butt of endless jokes by witches, warlocks and Satanists throughout the world, because the latter derive their power from demonic Anak entities. By constantly blaming the military and the globalist industrialist, the Anakim propagandists condition Nagaru into believing that all Nagar institutions are bad, and that the only hope one has to reach the chimerical next level of consciousness, evolution, vibratory frequency is to look to the skies, towards the same pale gods who are responsible for their current state of spiritual enslavement. Never mind that for the most part, these globalists and militarists are part of the same old fraternal orders, which worship the patriarchal serpent Caucasus, and in many cases are hosts for reptilian Anak entities themselves. There are Nagaru who can actually see the reptilian image superimposed upon the features of apparent people, whether the latter are in public or on C-SPAN. Some of them can also sniff out shape-shifting reptilians, because they simply don't smell the way normal humans do. Many of us, when focused, can feel negative reptilian energy when it's in their presence. Indwelling reptilian beings and humans or hosts and their fellow travelers operate here on Earth to set the stage for the return of the Anakim reptilian gods. The so-called conscious community is awash with these creatures. There are literal hosts for reptilian entities facilitating Nagar support groups, lecturing at so-called black diaspora conferences, and speaking on chat shows. This is so because of the long-term genetic and mental manipulation of the Nagar race. It's questionable whether these lectures and teachers, promoting Caucasus and Arabu religions even have souls, as we have come to know them. There are harmful side effects from being in too close proximity to a reptilian host over an extended period of time. The reptilian energy essence, which oozes out of these corrupted individuals, seeks to enter through holes in our light body, via emotional frequencies, and will eventually corrupt us from within if we hang around them for too long. That's why we must be careful with whom and what we listen to. The lecturer or preacher can lure the listener into a specified emotional state that opens us up to these negative entities. Just look at what happens in the church. All the singing, dancing and carrying on has members of the congregation falling out, claiming they have the Holy Ghost. Most negative entities are subtle, and slowly change your reasoning over time, having you make decisions you would not ordinarily make. What's happening in the church is bravado, foolishness, acting. If the Caucasus can convince grown men and women to accept such nonsense, these Nagaru will accept anything. It may seem somewhat paradoxical that the preacher is a man of God, when at the same time the church is a major hub of satanic Anakim ritual activity, but the state of our neighborhoods are all the evidence we need. Whose communities are the largest churchgoers, mosque attenders, etc. A whole industry has been built on Black history books, lectures and documentaries. No other community does this on such a scale. Any right-thinking person would have concluded that, with all the information and religion we have access to, something drastic should have changed about our people by now. Many other communities have done more in less time. Clearly there is an unacknowledged influence amongst us. Time and again Nagaru accept at face value what is presented to them. If they see men in authoritative attire, or with a trustworthy title, they automatically assume that what they are looking at are human beings, when in some cases the latter have proven to be servants of Anak reptilians. Unlike the modern world, amongst the Anakim, sensitive information is not limited to levels of classification or need to know, but rather to levels of awareness. All that is required of a mind-controlled Nagaru is to apply influence when needed. They don't have the luxury of independent thought. It is a tragic mistake for Nagaru to assume that the military or government are necessarily responsible for high-level policy making. We presuppose that humans are in charge, and that the human-non-human interaction is a relatively new phenomenon, which it is most certainly not. The interaction between human and non-human intelligences has an occult basis, and was thousands of years in the making. What is doubly insidious about Caucasus propaganda, is that it neatly capitalizes on the innate desire of Nagaru, that what is happening to us is for our own spiritual evolution, as well as for the ultimate benefit of mankind. This keeps Nagaru docile. They are trying to wear down our fighting capacity and will to do for self. Instead, we fight and kill each other. Do not allow these very basic psychological warfare and propaganda methods to work on you. Please take the time to study military history, and especially the intelligence, counterintelligence and security apparatus, which has evolved much since World War II. Some of the methods being used by the Caucasus are so basic, they wouldn't even have passed muster with any self-respecting counterintelligence officer of World War II. Study the double-cross system, in which captured German agents were turned by Britain's MI5 and made to send back misleading information, disinformation, to their Nazi German controllers. That's your preacher right there. Remember, most of them are Masons. How they see the scriptures versus what they preach at the pulpit is in stark contrast. They are literally pulling money from the pit that has become your neighborhood. As Winston Churchill says, in war, the truth must be guarded by a bodyguard of lies.